Good morning or afternoon, this is just turned. This is Phil, your tutor again, and apparently I'm the only one on the platform this morning. I'm just going to go through the last of these this morning, which is Unit 39. 39 at the back. We have this managing behaviours in a learning environment. There's quite a bit of material on the portfolio on this. There are a number of similarities between certain parts of Unit 1, specific behaviours in the learning environment, and quite a lot of answers from there be able to be directed straight across and cross-reference, and we'll cover those later on in the lesson. Some reason why my webcam doesn't appear to be working for some reason. I am not sure why that. It was. So switched it off. Or not, as a case maybe. Not responding properly. Anyway, to continue, managing behaviours in the learning environment. This can be one of the most challenging areas for a teacher, depending, of course, on the group that you're teaching. Many students in junior education and even into early senior education, and further education, but schools, managing behaviour is quite challenging. Some of the material that's on the VLE I'm going to cover with you this morning, and you'll be able to look at some of that and use that if you need to on the process. But one of the things we'll look at first is the actual unit itself. Front sheet, managing behaviours. It's looking to do a number of things. You understand the impact of behaviours on the learning environment. I mean, most of us know what that is in practical terms. One student that either doesn't want to be there or has made his mind up that it's going to be as difficult as possible. And it can affect the whole class. I mentioned school children before, but going into higher education, this is less of a problem because usually with older students, I find that if you do get somebody who's rather intractable, his peers will tell him to shut up or deal with it, and certainly help in the way that you are able to deal with that situation. So, kind of behaviour that can occur in a learning environment. Analyse potential factors contributed to behaviours in a learning environment and the impact of behaviours on the learning environment. So again, it's looking at what can occur, what factors cause them to occur, and analyse what the impact is on the actual environment itself. Now, that in itself is quite a tall order. It's a big piece of a teacher's work. Many of the times, those potential problems can occur without warning. It just suddenly appear and something happens and it kicks off, and you've got to deal with it. One of the things that you can deal with when you do that, or what you tend to do, is Somebody sent me a mail, just a second. I want to deal with this in a different way. That phone's playing with. The second part of this is analyse legislation related to managing behaviour in a learning environment and look at analysing the organisational policies related to managing behaviours in a learning environment. A number of things in there that are important that we're going to go over as I move on from here and go on to the actual material we've got to read and add to what you already have with regard to this unit 1. Hi, Mr. Yeah, I sent you an email. Have you not got the email? You can, with the code is on the email, in the email for you. You can just clock it, send it off that. Okay. Okay, bye. One student couldn't log in. He can now. I think we fixed the camera. I could have done. It came on there a minute. Okay, now let's look at a number of things in this e-book. It's looking at children, it's looking at all people, and it's looking at objectives. By this chapter, we will identify approaches to managing challenging behaviour presented by pupils, be aware of ways to organise appropriate learning environments in which the challenging behaviours can be managed, and identify features of some specific behaviours which challenge the ways to manage. Discuss research and related evidence which assists in the understanding of and improving of behaviour management. Now, it's quite a long e-book list. It's about 16 pages. I'm not going to read all of it through, but I'm just going to pick up a few of the points there that will be in your response to this unit. Behaviour does not occur in isolation. It's a product of either an external or internal factor. Behaviour needs to be viewed in the context of individual development and social interaction. A teacher can understand the meaning of the behaviour of an individual pupil and respond more effectively to it if he or she has greater knowledge of the theories underpinning development and cognition. We're going to cover some of the theories at a later point, although there are some mentioned in here. There will be a piece on the Moodle platform for you to read on some of the theories. we'll get down to some of those as we move on through this this lesson. Behaviours related to social interaction can be better understood and responded to by a teacher whose knowledge of the behavioural, social and affective theories developing cognition. Positive relationships enable learning. I think we all know that. It's studying behaviour definitions and approaches, so it's looking at some of the ways down that you can cover to manage your own response to challenging behaviour. It covers the report, some of the other things that go in establishing teaching role, frequency of problem behaviours, most common, reported to secondary schools, talking about calculated idleness or work avoidance, hindering of other pupils, arriving late, unwanted or non-verbal noises. You can make your own mind up what that could be. Persistent infringement of class rules, getting out of the chair and moving around the classroom, verbal abuse to other students, general rowdiness and mucking about. Again, this doesn't occur so much in higher education, although it still does occur from time to time with younger students. Most of the time, it will occur in younger students. Cheeky or impertinent remarks to the teacher, physical aggression to other pupils, verbal abuse to the teacher himself, physical destructiveness and physical aggression to the teacher. Now, a lot of the things have changed. There are very strict rules and regulations about what teachers can and can't do. Some of those are supposed to be being alleviated slightly, because a lot of the time, it just wasn't working in a lot of cases. You can only have a softly approach so far. I was brought up in a totally different atmosphere. If you did any of those things, you'd have got a complete belt around the ear hole and sent for the cane. And I'm not saying that was right or it was wrong, but it worked. But again, that's another attitude, another way of looking at it. We have to look at some things. We do so much more about now than we used to. Wanted to speak about task and on-task. Anyway, behaviour, task, theory of task. People gets more attention about task, reward on-task behaviour. Cognitive. Pupil thinks it can't do the task. Encourage the pupil to identify parts of the task it can do. Effective. Pupil fears failure. Build self-esteem. Social environment. He has a brother to say. Nurture group work. Work with parents and family. Yeah, that's a good idea. That actually does work. Provided you can get the parents involved. Some of the ones that have difficult families, if you like, the parents are difficult as well. So that only works if you've got a situation where the parents will listen. Biological, pupil has attention deficit, ADHD, all of the ADHD, refer for mental assessment. Developmental. That's usually the one that's the biggest criteria. Certainly in higher education, the pupil's not ready for independent work. Learning support and more appropriate learning target. And other students are put in from when you get towards level 4, 5, 6. Students have wanted to enrol in a course that perhaps is too high for them. and they've been right or wrong, they've been allowed to go on to that course, and it causes problems. Simply, they haven't got numbers, they haven't got the back ability to be able to show that. Oh, two in the middle, but obviously it's in the way. I need to move that out of the way. Move it over there. So yeah, a number of ways are behaviour here. There will be some sort of theory behind them, and generally explanation of what's actually occurring, yeah, and an action that you can take to deal with it, if you like. A number of times, those situations that suddenly occur are the cause of something that's got to get to that class standing. I'm going to read this out because it's important. The national standards for QTS are perhaps a useful basis to explore the key theological issues that help teachers to secure pro-social behaviour and advance the learning of all pupils. Teachers are required to address what are regarded as the three principles of inclusion: setting suitable learning challenges, responding to pupils' diverse needs, and overcoming potential barriers to learning. This is something that, again, it depends on the support you've got from the school and what the school's policies are, which obviously you've got to follow. But a number of times, students, for one reason or another, have gone off the map. I had a student, as an example, who was in a class of 19 to 24-year-olds who had been low achievers at school, and they were obviously not in employment or training, so they come in to pick up some of the skills that they needed. Three in that class were, one had emotional difficulties, and the other two were registered as what they call it. They had learning difficulties. They recognised learning difficulties. But one of them was quite a bright lad. He was, 19 going on 20. In all respects, he shouldn't have been in that class, and I couldn't work out what it was until we found out that he was dyslexic. He'd gone through 11 years of school without that being discovered or even anything done about it. After about a month, engaging with the people, I got him down to a centre, and they did some tests with him, and he was found to be one of those that by wearing blue lens glasses he can read everything. And don't ask me how it works, I'm not a psychologist, but there are, certainly for that problem, there are a number of solutions, but some, not all, with that type of difficulty. So yeah, that can lead to, obviously, he had to kept his head down, kept quiet, kept out of the picture, and he'd fallen off the map and nobody had picked it up, which is sad. It happens. The reaction to that could have been really disruptive. But like I say, if it had been, it may have been picked up. That's the sad part of the equation. Establishing your teaching role is another important part of this, and that is that all equipment you need is accessible, you arrive on time, and relate to learning behaviour. You have the temperature of the room, you give clear instructions, and you're fair and consistent. The lighting, ventilation is okay. You acknowledge your behaviour and set achievable and relevant tasks. All materials are labelled. You acknowledge achievement and you understand it's understood by all pupils. You facilitate teaching movement. You act as a role model, and you understand, yeah, parents or carers fall into this category. The pupil grouping, differentiated learning, respond incrementally to pupil action. Working environment, purposeful, orderly, friendly and supportive, varied teaching or pedagogy. The work is displayed, usually support, teaching assistants, anybody that may have assistance in that position. Pupil involvement in the class layout, usually support. Routine for distribution of materials, emphasise pupils' role, set rules and regulations and routines, negotiate those rules and routines, display them so everybody knows what they are, and then reinforce them at all times. So yeah, there are a number of things you can do to manage the actual class yourself. That is an important part of this. I'm going to look at, without going right back to the whole process, is establishing relationships. It's important to establish relationships with your students individually, because they're all different and they all have particular problems. But if you can make a point of making contact with those students on a personal basis, it does make a big difference. I'm going to drop this off now because you can read through the rest of that process and give me some responses. Going back up. I'm going to look at now is there's another handbook in here to have a look at. I'll just bring it up for a second. It's less important for the majority of you, as I understand your situations. If you may be in working with younger children, if not now, maybe in the future. And the material here in this e-book that you may find useful in terms of future reference. Primary schools are it's practical approaches to behaviour management in the classroom. Slow down, notes. Effective classroom management, again, understanding behaviour, getting to know the children, things you've already mentioned, to know your students, dealing with different specific difficulties, yeah. Individual children, as I said, dealing with individuals on an individual level. Inside effective bullying behaviour and the link between non-attendance and behaviour. All of these things are in different behaviours. Okay, you've got to deal with. What I want to do is all the actually close. Oh, yeah. I've done a cross-reference polish unit for the first two learning objectives this morning. But it does. Oops, too far. Right. learning objective 1. Analyse behaviours that can occur in a learning environment. Again, this is expand on the evidence unit 1. Learning objectives 4.1, 4.2 and 4.3. Those three, to some extent, may have been covered in there. They may be, again, a cross-reference. But you need to check these. This is the one unit, I think, more important than the others, where you do need to check where your responses, because it's a very specific unit, this. It's covering merely behaviours in the learning environment and how you manage those. Unit 1 was general. This is specific. So there may be some changes in what's being asked for at your response here. Oops. I made this too quickly. Second bit is applies legislation relating to management behaviours in a learning environment. Now, I mentioned a bit earlier that there are some there is some material on the learning environment what you can look at for that to look at the type of legislation. It's asking for an analysis here, so it's relating to the management of behaviours in a learning environment. What I suggest here is when you're doing your analysis, the actual learning objective title is Understand Legislation and Organisational Policies Related to Managing Behaviours in the Learning Environment. There are two things to look at here. One is the policies within the school in which you work with relation to there may be a disciplinary procedure. Those are the things that you need to look at, because these are the things that get added to. You also have to have a look through the legislation on this as well. Your analysis. Your view is important. It may be that you disagree with some of the legislation and also the policy within your school. Don't forget to say so. If that's your opinion, that's your opinion. But if you're going to disagree with something, you have to have an alternative. Remember that. Yeah, that's part of your analysis. For this morning, we're going to look at this afternoon. No, sorry about that. You need to analyse organisational relating to managing behaviours in the learning environment. Well, this is part of the same thing, because that's looking at legislation only. This is looking at organisational policies. Every school or college will have a policy on managing behaviour in the lesson, in the classroom. It will have a policy on lateness. It will have a policy on a number of things that are surrounding this behaviour management. You need to look at those, and also, as I said, there will be at some point a disciplinary procedure. Sanction happens if continue disobedience to the rules or unruly behaviour is not sorted at the earlier stage. What happens next? Some schools have an exclusion policy, other schools won't actually exclude. It depends on the particular school, and there are guidelines from government ministry that will help in you resolving those problems as early as possible. So, what we looked at is formally, we looked at analysing the behaviours that occur, analyse potential factors contributing to those behaviours, and analyse the impact of those behaviours on the rest of the learning environment. As I said, we've had a look at some of the reading matter you've got on it. Some of the things that are in there will be very useful to check. It may be that when you go back and look at Unit 1, you may think, I've got a little bit here at Unit 1 as well. If that's required, if you find that by adding a little bit more evidence at Unit 1, at those learning objectives 4, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 3, if you, again, not you feel you've not fully covered them after reading this material, you can then fully cover them, then make straight cross-references where it's asking for this on this unit. You can just refer to evidence at unit 1, whatever. Most of you, one or two of you asked questions regarding portfolios. I've always suggested with a larger qualification like this, where there are quite a few units, several, 8, 9 units, I think, in total. We dropped one off, I think. Well, there are certainly 8 units anyway, and they are quite lengthy units. This is one of the shorter ones with only 4 learning objectives. Some have got 6, 7 objectives, and obviously 2 or 3 elements to each of those learning objectives. So that's quite a lot. Whatever to organise a portfolio, it's easy just do unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4. Exactly the same if it's electronic. Yeah. Put all your evidence together for unit 1, your learning objective 1, learning objective 2, 3, 4, however many. And then unit 2 will be in a. What I suggest is when you're organising these, put them into separate folders first, and then once you've got them into the separate folders, you can combine them in order at the end. It'll be then easier for people to go through and look and make an assessment decision on against the work you provided. If you could have a look at doing that, and again, use material on the really, make sure that if you've not been able to attend this lesson, obviously you haven't, because I've not got any notification of it itself, that you access the stuff on Moodle. The recording of this lesson is there, as well as the material that you need to look at. I will check some of the legislation material on there, just to make sure it is completely relevant, because I've found 1 or 2 that need to be changed slightly. So I'll look at that next day or 2, but I'll put it on and make sure it's available. And I'll speak to you again on Wednesday. Bye for now. So the meeting closed. Sorry.